Spaz, stop eating on live stream.
I haven't eaten all day. Fuck off.
That's rude. At least we got past the first 8 seconds so we don't get demonetized. Thanks, Spaz. God, learn the rules. What is going on, everyone? And welcome into the Oregon Voice of College Football channel as we look at the post-game analysis of Maryland versus Oregon. And Spaz froze in his car. Oh, there he is.
I'm good now.
How you doing, Spaz? You were at the game,
back and forth.
Yeah. How are you doing? You were at the game, so
I'm exhausted. That game was dog shit.
Well, we're gonna get into the
Terrible.
game. We're gonna get into the game, but how was the atmosphere? How was the experience, Spaz? Come on, you gotta do some build up over here.
It was great, man. It was another typical Oregon game, man. The crowd was wild, loud. Just taking care of business. The Oregon crowds are crazy, man. It's nuts. 60,000 people, and it's loud as 100,000 seat stadium.
Yeah, that's what people have said. So, and obviously I believe it because people were in denial after the Ohio State game, and then other teams were like, "Oh yeah, no, that's true." It's like, no, it's true.
Yes, it's very true.
But and looking at the game, and we'll try to keep this pretty brief because there was some good things. Obviously, a lot of bad things got to talk about. Maybe save it for Wednesday a little bit, as I got to get up at like 4 a.m. Yeah, all I add this up to is this is that one game of the season that every team has where it's just I mean, I think I wrote down sluggish to analyze multiple quarters of that game for us. Just sluggish.
Yep, and the good thing is that unlike Miami, we handled our business even in a sluggish game.
Yeah, I mean 100%. Even the announcers were like, as bad as that looked, damn, if that's bad, then if that's a bad game, what can they look like? And I don't want to just say this was us. There were multiple things on the team that we can point out, but I give props to Maryland coming off a bye week, and I think that they showed a lot of things we weren't expecting on defense and probably offensively that we weren't really prepared for. So I think it's also a compliment to Maryland of using that bye week to game plan before they came out west.
Yeah, they played a solid game. They played a really solid game. They're
I have no idea what Does anyone can anyone else interpret that? I can't. I'm gonna mute
again.
What? I'm gonna Spaz, I'm gonna mute you until your camera comes back. Are you back now?
Am I?
No. I don't know. Are you? All of that was just jumble and electronic, in and out. The entire thing. Okay, now he'll be back. Maybe he's resetting. Yeah, Maryland. They gave a good game. They gave a good game. I have to compliment Loxley and his game planning. They have some good receivers, Smith and Felton. They have some good receivers. And so shout out to Maryland for that. But yeah, Oregon shot themselves in the foot a lot. Sluggish offense, like the first couple drives, drops, just missed passes. It was it was just bizarre to see it that way. I mean, I wasn't surprised they came out a little sluggish maybe, but to go like 3 and out twice basically to start the game almost. It was like, what is happening right now? The O-line without Harper not looking great. Again, maybe more credit to Maryland, but stuff that's got to get cleaned up. Lanning knows that. And yeah, as GWG says here, this was the big one. This was the big one of the night. Penalties. Penalties, penalties, penalties. Again, I think this is a shout out to Maryland a little bit more because it seemed like Oregon was playing a lot more man than I thought they were going to do against a team like Maryland with that passing game. And we were kind of getting burnt a little bit. Hence all the holding calls or the PI and PEIs and stuff like that. It was very weird. So again, I think it's more Maryland's game plan than ours. But yeah, it was not great. What was our stat line? I'm waiting on Spaz in the background, but he's not popping up. And he's just a blank screen right now. We'll wait. Let's see. Team stats. How many?
Hey, am I there now?
Now you're here, but we've moved on from there.
Of course not.
Yeah, you are. I can hear you. All right. Spaz doing this on his phone. Not the best idea. Yeah, Oregon. 12 penalties for 95 yards. Not great at all. Not great.
No, it was a struggle bus. The offensive line, obviously with Marcus Harper out, definitely made some issues on the offensive line. Dylan Gabriel did not get sacked, but he got pressure. And James could not. They had him plugged. So in the second half, you saw a lot of Noah Whittington. And he looked really impressive in that second. They couldn't figure him out. They had Jordan James figured out, but they could not figure out Noah Whittington for that.
And he's gone again.
Yeah. Curious?
Yeah, you are like electronic, cutty, glitchy, constant.
There it is again. I'm back.
Oh man. All right, doing this from the stadium, we can tell, is not a good idea.
Well, now I'm in the parking lot across the street now, so it shouldn't be that bad.
Well, now it's back, but yeah, it is random glitch all of a sudden. I think it's because we're broadcasting, so now it's trying to catch up signal strength of broadcasting.
Yeah.
But yeah, penalties were the number one like bad takeaway tonight. And again, credit I think Maryland of calling a good game against us and our DBs, and Spaz might be back. We'll see. But yeah, it was not good. It was just constantly like that gave them definitely a couple drives, especially the first one. I mean, of roughing the kicker, which led them down the field. And then there was another PI I think it was a PI that got them the touchdown. You know, I mean, stuff like that happens once in a while, but this is Maryland still. It shouldn't have, but that's why I'm giving credit to Maryland for the game planning they did. And yeah, well, what was that? That was a 21-point victory on an off day. Arguably one of the worst games we've seen since the Idaho game, to be honest. That's kind of what I compare this to, is the Idaho game. Hey, positive notes though. After we talked about the offensive, abysmal offensive performance for the most part. Hey, we have a tight end touchdown finally. Good job, Ferguson. Almost got called back because I think he did step out of the back of the end zone, but they didn't. They let it stand. So finally, the tight end room has a touchdown. Tried to get him a second one later on in the game, but didn't happen. And yeah, Frankly, as you have said here, obviously shout out to Gabriel breaking the all-time touchdown record for college football. I, to be honest, don't even. I don't even remember what the number is now. I should have written that down. If I go to, it's probably on here. What was it? Oh, 179. There we go. 179 touchdowns responsible for. So, yeah, impressive stat line. Obviously, had more time than Keenum, but still impressive. So we have that, and oops. Well, I think they were so focused on getting the tight end stuff, but yeah, tonight Ferguson seemed to be targeted a lot for whatever reason. Maybe there was some mismatch they thought they were going to have there and just wasn't working. I don't know. Couldn't tell you what the game plan was, to be honest. This offensive performance was confusing to say the least. There was no seemed to be identity of this team tonight. It was just bizarre. Yes. Oh God, when did Case Keenum stop playing football at Houston? What was that? 2010, 2011, something like that. So it'd been there a while. How does the Georgia loss affect the play? I don't know. Georgia lost, Miami lost, Cristobal. So yeah, a bunch of teams just slide up, I guess. That's all I can say. The oh, and let's shout out the big guys, all on one drive in the third quarter, because I think Lanning finally had enough. On I believe it was the second drive of the third quarter. We're gonna go 3 and out again. Birch with the fake punt. Backup, true freshman backup offensive lineman Wilson gets the touchdown pass, and big boy Connerly with a 2-point conversion direct snap. Come on. That was ridiculous and unnecessary, but whatever. Why not? Something to kind of try to get a spark in the offense. It was needed. Definitely was needed. Let's see here. Where do we got? Let me show it here. Because if we look at the box scores here, I don't know if that's clear. Let me enlarge this one more time. That's a little better. Oops. I mean, even with how bad it looked, Oregon defensively still held them to just barely over 200 yards. So almost held another team under 200 passing. And that's all Maryland does for the most part is pass. Rushing, yeah, our passing, not great, 183. Not great at all. Rushing, only 83 yards. We had 180 yards. That's decent. Yeah, not the greatest offensive explosion, to say the least. The yeah, we didn't lose it. We had the one fumble on the Evan Stewart. I believe it was a punt return. He muffed it, but they got it back. Obviously, they lost the one fumble. Shout out to Birch for getting his hand in there, knock that away. And shout out, obviously, in the fourth to help seal the game, Tyshim Johnson and then Justin Jacobs, each with a pick in the fourth quarter. That really helped kind of ice the game, especially the Justin Jacobs one. But yeah, I mean, again, when the offense is struggling, the defense helped pick it up a bit. So that's all you kind of can ask for. And same with special teams and stuff like that. You know, if one area is kind of falling behind, another area picks up the slack. That's what the defense did, especially in the fourth quarter to help shut them out. or shut things down, basically. But the penalties, yes. Yeah, the penalties, Oregon's been very good this year with penalties. I've been surprised, actually. It's been such a rarity to hear penalties called that I kind of forgot how good they've been. But yeah, tonight it was just like penalty, 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 penalty. I was like, oh God, what now? It's just one of those games. That's why I don't want to. I don't want people to be freaking out, and I'm not saying they're freaking out because guess what? Every team has one of these, games every season. I mean, look at last year. Do you think the Alabama fans were happy that they had to have literally a 4th and like 30 conversion to win the game against Auburn, a bad Auburn team? Then they still won the SEC title and went to the playoff. Every team's going to have these types of games once in a while. And we still won by 21 points. So I'm not sitting here complaining too much, but there are things that need to be cleaned up. And Lanning's going to get on their asses. Coaches tomorrow and then the players on Monday. He's going to get on their asses. Yeah, and Savage, that one hit, he took that guy out on the sideline. I was like, ooh, brutal. He did not slow down at all. He just like tried to kill that guy. But yeah, as we were saying, yeah, penalties definitely. That's going to be the first and foremost. And then I think they're going to have to look at what the problem is, why there were so many penalties, especially pass interference, holdings, defensive holdings, all that stuff. Because was it scheme? Was it unexpected plays by Maryland? What was it? And they're going to have to get those cleaned up because obviously against good teams, you can't have 95 yards in penalties. Not like Maryland was a whole lot better, but they had less penalties than we did. What did they have? I just looked at it. I forgot. They had 75-yard penalties. So it actually almost offset ours, but at the same time, not great. Not great. Point is, we should never have this. If we didn't have that and they had this, we would have won by a lot more, probably. But again, the other part of the team, the defense, especially, they picked up the slack. So at the same time, every team is going to have a bad game. And yeah, I think, I mean, that's kind of the problem, kind of the part here. I think Maryland was a unique kind of game situation where it's before going to Randall, before a bye week, knowing you should win, kind of a little bit of, not being focused, I guess is the best way to put that. I was trying to think of a different word, but I could see that despite the coach's preparation for it and trying to fire everyone up, I could see it's tough to, keep guys getting motivated all the time, especially with all due respect to Maryland, when you're playing Maryland, So again, I think each team's going to have these types of games once a year. If this is the worst game that we play since Idaho, and we look back on these types of games, it happens. So I think next week they're going to be fired up to go to Wisconsin, and then they get a nice bye week. Everyone gets rested up. Hopefully, maybe we'll have Tez Johnson back, maybe Marcus Harper. But the way Washington's getting their asses handed to them right now tonight by Penn State, I don't think we need them probably for that game, especially at home. But, the point is, this is a team without a good O lineman or, one of our best receivers. And Birch went out, I think early third quarter, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, and hopefully that's nothing major. I think they kept him out basically the rest of the game, just out of precaution. So hopefully it's nothing major. I'm sure we'll find out more during the week, but Yeah, I see why they called it though. I see why they oh well call for by zero. You mean by the official, or you mean the unsportsmanlike when the O lineman pushed the Maryland player? I get it. It was an after the play type of thing. I know what he was doing. I can understand the coaches aren't going to have too much issue with it, but it was just another penalty that we racked up, and it was a 15-yarder, so never good. Yeah, yeah, the shove of the Maryland player. Yeah, yeah, I understood why he did it. And I think the coaches will be like, "That's good. You're standing up for your quarterback getting hit kind of late, but don't do it." Don't do it. I mean, because that pushed us out of field goal range, even so we had to punt on that drive. The Cal game during 13 run. I don't remember the Cal game during the 2013. I actually don't remember the Cal game during 2013. I specifically remember the 2014 one because it was an absolute shootout in Cal, at Cal or whatever. It was like, God, like 55-49 or some crap like that. It was something crazy. The Jared Goff years. 2013. I don't know why that game's not coming to mind. Oh well. There's too many different games to remember every season sometimes. But I mean, that's it. Every year you're gonna have these types of games. I mean, again, looking back now, you look at the Idaho game. For God's sake, I tried to keep it cool then. Then you watch the Boise game. I think everyone hit panic button almost. Now you realize Boise is actually a pretty good team. So that was not that bad. Plus, it was a hurdle Oregon had never overcome yet. And since then, it's been coast. It's been rolling and then coast in certain games since then. So tonight was the first time where they just kind of looked just above average. I mean, you know, oh, that one. Well, no, that was 2010 at Cal. It was like 15-13 Ducks. Yeah. And we literally, yeah, it was like a 9.5 minute drive to kill the clock because Chip Kelly refused to give the ball back. That was 2010 at Cal. Yeah. I remember that one. And I think this is more the point is the coaching staff does a great job, and that Dan Lane especially can fire people up, get them hyped up, get them ready to go. But I do think it's kind of like it's a bit of a mix of they're like it's Maryland, dude. It's Maryland. But at the same time, yeah, again, I think Maryland also prepared very well to kind of throw out things maybe they weren't prepared for. So I think the defense got caught a little off guard, and then motivation played a bit of a part in it too. So I think it's a mix of a bunch of things, and I'm sure the staff is going to be talking about it a lot tomorrow, and then especially Monday with the players as they get ready and prepare for Wisconsin. So to clean things up. I'm sure they'll be ready to go for Wisconsin, especially with the road game, like that. Shockingly, I think they play better on the road almost than at home. That's the opposite of really what it should be. That's what it kind of feels like. If that makes any sense at all. So, yeah, again, it wasn't the prettiest game, but a win is a win. Again, Maryland did a good job. They tried to they won the time. I mean, they won the time of possession And it should have been more until Oregon really was just kind of drained the clock at the end there. But they still beat us by over 5 minutes of time possession. And again, it should have been more. But so I think Maryland did almost everything that they really could to try to slow us down. And they did a good job of it. But again, I think it was a lack of motivation, focus, and everything because it's, I don't know. It was just kind of odd. And I agree here. Yeah. Coming out of the half, I thought out of the half, they were going to be all fired up, going 3 and out. It was just no idea. It's the drop passes were one of the more confusing things of the night, were all the drops in the first half. They weren't like bad passes, you know. So it was just weird. Ferguson, I know, has had 2 or 3 drop passes this game at least. Again, some days he's on and off. If you look back over the last couple of years, some games he literally will not drop the ball. He'll catch some wild ones, and then other games he'll literally just drop it when it's thrown right at him. It's kind of, I don't know why. He seems hit and miss sometimes. Well, it can, but then there are teams that struggle on the road too. But Oregon has excelled on the road for the most part. So, again, I guess it's, they just get fired up for those ones. I do think it was the Maryland effect. They kind of looked at Maryland and just went, meh, whatever. Even though Maryland does have a couple really good receivers. And they just weren't expected for certain things. I think that's a lot of it. Shut up, Spaz. It's not called injuries. We already talked about injuries. Forecast for Madison. I have 37. It's colder than my ex's heart. That's mean. Yeah, it's going to be Madison's going to be interesting. Plus, it's a night game. Ooh. So we're going to see how that goes. Obviously. Yeah, this is what I'm trying to tell everyone. So exactly, it's like, calm down. This is a bad game and still won by 21 points. So everyone, calm down. Yeah, Gary Bryan out there taking some punt and kickoff stuff, some of those duties. Not much in the receiving game. I don't even think did he even have a reception? I don't think he even had one, did he? No, he did not. So they're trying to get him back in the game a little bit, kind of acclimate him back in because he hasn't had any game experience, obviously, since last year, since like the Fiesta Bowl. Gary Bryan coming back next year? I would assume so, unless he decides to transfer, but I would assume he would come back next year since he's been out all this year. Also depends on how much are they just going to use him this year and use a medical for him, or just until like Tez comes back, or well, he could medical if he doesn't burn a red shirt. But I guess since they already came back in, then he has burned a red. He can't do that, I guess. Oh, that's an interesting situation. But we need the depth because, even Holden went out the first quarter. Now, he did come back. So that was good to see because when he went out, I went, oh no. And I was hoping it was just like a little bruise or something, or he just got hit hard. And that seemed to be all it was. But yeah, passing was not a strong suit in receiving this game at all. Definitely was not. Yeah, that's it. It felt like a lot more than 206 passing yards. It really did. And I think that's exactly correct. The penalties were the problem. It wasn't the passing yardage being given up or big plays. It was literally just the penalties that kept those drives going that made it feel just awful. That's really it was the main thing was the penalties. So I don't know. We've talked tight end touchdown. Gabriel getting the thing. Oh, I would do want to compliment the defense on especially one big thing. That D line batting the balls. I don't even know how many ball deflections they had where they just batted the ball down. I should have probably kept count, but after about 5 of them, I didn't even think about counting them. So I don't know how many of those there were, but there was a bunch. So good job by the D line, kind of taking advantage of something they saw in film to go, they didn't bring a lot of pressure a lot of the time, but since they couldn't get there, stop the passing game, bat the ball down if you can get your hand up there. So that was good by the D line. We talked Fat Boy touchdowns, 2-point conversions, fake punts. Anything else someone noticed in this game that they would like to talk about? Yeah, we talked about turnovers. Shout out to Jordan Birch again, Johnson and Jacobs. Yes, we talked about that shot for Spaz. Spaz is coming back in the show like 20 minutes after the fact. It's like, yeah, we already talked about it. Oh man. But yeah, Birch with the strip fumble. Obviously, we got the recovery for 6. Then again, Johnson and Jacobs in the 4th with the pick each to really close out the game. All I can say is, I don't know what else more people want right now. Obviously, would you have liked to have absolutely annihilated them? Put up 50. Obviously, a lot of people wanted that. I would have loved it too. All I can say is 10-0. Number 1 in the country. And tied with Indiana, who is also 10-0. Shout out to Indiana. I thought they were going to piss that game away today against Michigan. Hence why I would rather play Indiana, I think, than Ohio State again, because I think Indiana, we could do something against them. But we'll see. Obviously, Indiana and Ohio State have to play each other still, so. Yeah, exactly. That's why Spaz is being a douchebag in the chat right now. I'm surprised he wasn't texting more, complaining about something during the game. It was a very calm night. And shout out Big Ten Network for the broadcasting. But damn it, those commercial breaks. I've been used to like 4 or 5 minute 4 to 5 minutes in the commercial breaks. Big Ten's like, we're back in 30 seconds. I'm like, yeah, we'll see about that. They're literally back in 30 seconds. I was like, damn, don't even have time for a cigarette. We'll see, Troy. We'll see. Yeah, I think that's one thing. I think this is the one thing that you still want a team to have is you want a team to face stuff like this. So the offense didn't play well. So the defense had to step up. The defense still gives up time. Then the offense steps back in. You want to see each part of the team be able to complement each other. If one's struggling, another one will pick up the slack. And that's what Oregon's had to do in a few games this year. And that has been extremely helpful. So while it wasn't the most impressive game by any stretch of the imagination, it wasn't exactly like a terrible game, Spaz, you just do not like the Big Ten. I don't like the Big Ten refs either. I don't know what's up with the Big Ten refs. They took a few too many Pac-12 refs over, I think. Brought him over, I think. So, yeah, don't get me started with Ohio State, though. Everyone's like, oh, Ohio State beat Purdue 42-0. We're better than Oregon now. I'm like, what? That's the Twitter world. We won't get into that. That's been a cesspool all day. Oops, sorry. Yeah, again, penalties. They'll get those cleaned up this week. Again, I think a lot of it was motivation, like we talked about. Maryland maybe putting some stuff out that we weren't expecting. I think that it was a combination of multiple things, but yeah, you can't do that many penalties because I think Oregon's been averaging. I don't know. I think they've only been averaging something like 25 yards a game in penalties. It's been almost nothing. So tonight was just kind of shocking, just how many times it was like, oh, flag. Yeah, everyone was happy that Georgia lost, and Miami, of course. Finally getting caught up. I was watching that one. I know Miami has a Georgia Tech problem fast. This is 2 years in a row. I will say one of the best things I saw on X following that game was wouldn't it have been funny if Georgia Tech took a knee to win the game in front of Cristobal. I was like, oh man. If you don't remember last year, you won't get the joke. Any final thoughts from people about this game before we wrap up the week that was the Terrapin week? Even Sam had to ask me earlier. He's like, "What the hell is a Terrapin?" I was like, "It's a Terrapin." Everyone's always like that. They're like, "What the fuck is that?" All right. Well, if there's no other comments, what we're going to do is we're going to just wrap this up. Nice, short, and sweet. Oregon 39, the Fighting Maryland Terrapins 18. And Spaz will be back on Wednesday when we come back at the same time as always, as we go on to look ahead and discuss and preview the Wisconsin Badgers on the road at Camp Randall. Oh, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. That's the last kind of scary game where it's like, okay, let's see what happens. You get through that, you get to a bye week, then you just have to deal with the Huskies. And again, the Huskies are not good this year. And they haven't won a road game this season at all. Yes, going to Autzen, not really much of a road game, but you know what I mean. So other than that, make sure you like, share it, subscribe if you haven't, hit the notifications so you don't miss us. And we will be back Wednesday again to discuss the upcoming Wisconsin game. So even without Spaz here, as he was having some connections issues, we both want to say thank you, everyone in the chat, for joining us. And we will see you Wednesday night. As always, go Ducks.